I'm putting out a video. What I've noticed with a lot of the surviving a mass shooting videos, they're always an office setting. So I figured I'd put out a video for people who aren't in offices. Your factories, your correction facilities, your jails, outdoors, places that aren't offices. There's nothing wrong with like you run, hide, fight, but the problem is it's written by an office perspective. So I present surviving a mass shooting outside an office environment. Now, I've done so many years as a corrections officer, and before that I was in the military for 3 years. So let's get into it. First thing you should always do, all right, I'm going to come back to this. So give me a minute. We'll be back in a few minutes with part one. All right, part one, situational awareness. Right? My years in the military, my years as a correction officer, with run, fight, hide, the first thing I noticed was the guy walking in dressed like a bad ripoff of Vin Diesel. That right there was not normal for that situation. You'll notice that too. There's a lot of things that you should notice, like, okay, former employee, former employee that left on bad terms hanging around. That's probably not going to be a good outcome of that. With corrections and jails, former inmates hanging around during shift changes, right? Also, because let's face it, outdoor, former employees, them always defense. That's stuff that you should be really paying attention to. And let's not also forget now, unfortunately, we live in a world where some people think love is being violent to somebody. And just because that person goes to work doesn't mean that they stop being violent or controlling or demanding. There are people that will beat their wife and will try to hurt anybody who protects their wife or spouse. That's the things you look for. Situational awareness. And, don't let your situational awareness down just because you're not at work. If you're in Walmart, if you're in McDonald's, that's not endorsement of either one or them condemning either one. If you notice something that just doesn't look right, like somebody going into the bathroom with a damn gym bag. Why would I be bringing a huge gym bag to a Walmart? Only one or two things. Either I'm getting ready to cause a real big problems, or I'm shoplifting. The world we got now, it is good to have situational awareness. And, there's the things to look for. Something that's out the ordinary or something that just does not seem right. And, this ain't nothing against no race, no creed. Anything that doesn't seem right. That's the things to look for. Now, I'm going to come back with this next part of this. I'm going to break this down into parts because it's easier to record this as in parts than it is as a whole video in one sitting. We'll come back for part two in a few minutes. Let's talk about some of the things that would cause. Let's talk about some of the things that would cause this. In the prison, inside a prison or a jail, they get hold of a weapon. Here's my theory that I would say, in my opinion, would be the reasons behind it. SRG violence, aka street gangs. Gang members don't stop being gang members because they're locked up. wherever they are, they want to be top dog in the situation. If you got a firearm inside a jail or a prison, they would use that to control the environment. Remember, all these people are about control. They want to control the situation, control the people around them. And most of them don't have, most of them are going to use violence to control. And they're also going to probably use it to take out rival gangs so that they have the better numbers. Gangs are all about numbers, nothing else. Inside, it's also a hostage situation, right? Inside a prison, they'll take hostages. The reasons behind that is movement of themselves, movement of other people, and release of people. 1968 CP, part of the demands, there was no firearms involved, but part of the demands during the prison riot in CP of 68 was to release people in the RHU unit. The third one, the third one in the hostage situation is to demand an audience with governor, with high-ranking officials, sheriffs. That's the third reason why they'd have to be taken hostages. And the third part of this, escape attempt. Let's not forget, these guys, they don't want to be there. This is punishment. And most of those people have never really faced any punishment, so if they get the chance to get out of their punishment, they're going to try. And, bodies are bodies. Also, going back to part 2, in any situation, no ranks. Nobody holds rank. In a hostage situation. Everybody's equal as a hostage. Now that we've talked about inside threats for your jails and your prisons, let's get back into the whole picture. Coming up next. Now the outside threats. The outside threats in the real world, right? Outside of the jails and prisons. Disgruntled former or current employees. Domestic violence, terrorism, or somebody trying to do suicide by cop. Disgruntled former or current employees. Sometimes people who are terminated or get repercussions of their actions will be mad about it and will act out on their violence. Looks at disciplinary action, termination, or other work-related factors. Most people are not a threat. There is always that minimal, minimal group of people. Things to look for: withdrawn, angry, empty threats. Never treat an empty threat as an empty threat. Today's empty threat could be tomorrow's horrible promise. The domestic violence. There are people who then think, because this is my spouse, this is my property, I have a right to be violent, I have the right to act out. And, they treat them like crap at home, but just because they go to work don't mean that person won't follow them to work and do the same actions. You should always be on the lookout for this. And if you are a victim of domestic violence, or somebody's a victim of domestic violence, let the people that are in charge of where you work know this. So it's, if your job cares about you, they'll care about that. Terrorism. This makes the news a lot. domestic terrorism. Well, there's domestic and there's foreign terrorism. You know, let's not forget 9/11 was an act of state-sponsored terrorism of religious extremists. It was religious extremism. But let's break down terrorism. There's more than just domestic and foreign. There's revolutionaries. Revolutionary is they want to change the political system. They want to change the politics, right? Things to look out. They'll be them going out to look for them gun stores. They're going to be looking after them prisons, factories that them have chemicals. This is the things they'll be looking for to them seize upon, which would then lead into mass shootings. Sub-revolutionary, same concept, but not trying to change the government, just trying to change the policies of the government. And like I said, what I mentioned in the first ones will be in the second ones, which both of them would also, like I forgot to add, food supplies, fuel. And finally, establishment or state sponsored. This is to then take down, either it's perpetrated on its, the government does this to its own people, or perpetrates it on a foreign government. These definitions are out of the Encyclopedia Britannica. Let's talk about cover and concealment, or we'll come back with cover and concealment. All right, now we're going to talk about cover and concealment. See, this is actually great because a lot of your factories and a lot of your prisons and jails have brick walls designed to stop other things. Great center block walls, thick center block walls, are great for cover. Even center block walls with a brick outside are great for cover. Thick metal, like behind a bulldozer is a great place to take cover during a mass shooting. That's what you should be looking for. This is the thing about this. It's always good to look for great cover, but also be mindful. You need to know the difference between cover and concealment. Concealment's a great way to hide, but you also need to look at what your concealment is. And if you're in a factory, behind a vat of acid's probably not a great place to then hide, because then you got the other factor of somebody shoots through that vat, that acid's coming out. So, yeah, they didn't get you with bullets, but they could have got you with chemicals. Also, try not to hide in any room with explosives, because, okay, they didn't shoot you with a bullet, they got you with the explosion. Try to find cover. Try to find it away from corrosive chemicals. Try to find it away from explosives. Like I said, with factories and stuff, the best bet is to get out. But if you can't, find a place that doesn't have stuff that's corrosive or flammable to hide behind if you have to go for concealment. In correctional facilities, furniture. Try to stay behind furniture, but also try to be quiet. Calm, cool, collected, quiet. Because you don't want to give away where you're hiding. But also try to get to cover if you can. Concealment is a great option. Cover is a better option. And this is what I got for cover and concealment. We'll come back and talk about the last part of the last parts of this in a few minutes. All right, I'm getting ready to show you low crawl. You know, I'm sorry about the crudeness of this, but being unauthorized, I only have so much money, and I have to do this the hard way. So, I'm going to show you a great example of low crawl. See how he's dragging his body on the ground? Now you saw how he dragged his body on the ground. When it comes down to your life, it's nothing wrong with eating sand, eating dirt. You know, like I said, a few scrapes on a concrete floor is worth your life. Now give me a minute, I'll give you a scorpion crawl. Or sorry, leopard crawl. Take a little longer. Sorry about this. Okay, here comes your leopard crawl.
Leopard crawl. The leopard crawl is useful when moving behind very low cover. This movement consists of crawling on elbows in the inside of the knees. The body is propelled along by the movement of alternate elbows and knees, rolling the body a little as each knee is bent, or by trailing one leg behind and using only one knee. Keep your heels, head, body, and elbows down, and maintain observation as you go.
All right, with that being said, on to the next part of this training seminar, and we'll see you in there. All right, the other thing is, if you can get to concealment, if you can't run, like, you know, if you're trying to keep a low profile, you need to then either do a low crawl or a scorpion crawl. Keep your body as low to the ground as you can. I understand some people can't do this, but if you can, low crawl or scorpion crawl, which the last two videos I showed you should give you a reference to that. You know, the best thing to do is get to a cover or escape, which, I mean, with your prisons and your jails, they're designed to keep anybody from escape. And I'm gonna come back with with the medical terms or the medical things you need to look for after this. All right, rendering first aid. There are a lot of aspects that need to be taught. You know, need to be talked about. You know, stopping bleeding is a good thing. You know, making sure everybody's okay. You know, stuff that you learn in basic first aid. But there's one thing a lot of basic first aid don't teach, which is sucking chest wounds. Sucking chest wound is where the bullet didn't go into the lung, but it went into the damn lung walls, causing the pressure to destabilize inside of the damn lung walls, causing the lung to collapse. You need to figure out how to then get that lung back expanded. Yeah. Here it goes. Like, I'm going to tell you this definition right here. Sucking chest wounds occur when injuries penetrate the thorax and inhalation results in the air entering the pleural cavity. Leads to worsening tension on it. So sucking chest wound, I'm going to probably show you a video on that one after I get done with this one. But it's an easy fix if you got like hard plastic and tape. Try to find something as sterile as possible. I mean, I understand in a mass shooting incident when you're trying to survive, it's like trying to survive. But I'm going to show you the video on how to make a dressing for a sucking chest wound, and I'll come back with my conclusion. All right, like I said, this is on a budget, so this is how I have to do this right now. But like I said, the guy on this video is kind of dry, I'm not gonna lie, but it's some good information, so please pay attention to it. Because sucking chest wound might be something that happens in a mass shooting. So this is good information. Thank you.
A nickel-sized hole. Holes that are smaller than that are not going to have the effect of collapsing the lung and causing major hemodynamic compromise to a patient. Holes that are bigger than that are a much more difficult thing to manage. If this patient was shot, we'd be concerned about an exit wound. From our previous minutes, we had talked about a way that you could potentially seal a wound like this using an ECG electrode. And while this is a reasonable approach as a way of covering up a wound like that, most of the sucking chest wounds that we actually see are going to be much larger than that, and a small ECG electrode is not going to do the trick. We've learned in the past that a piece of petroleum gauze would actually be useful to seal a wound like that. The thought process being that you'd open the petroleum gauze, take this gauze itself, which is occlusive by nature of the fact that it's coated with petroleum, put that onto the wound, and then cover the wound with a dressing. The dressing then would, in the past, have been sealed on 3 sides so that we could actually allow air to escape from the collapsed lung and reinflate the lung once we had an occlusive dressing on the lung or on the hole. So currently, the thought process has changed from covering the wound on 3 sides to completely covering the wound. And in fact, when you look at the most recent trauma literature, this process of attempting to put together an occlusive dressing using some petroleum gauze takes too long and is too complicated to do. The military has for years used a device called an Asherman seal. The Asherman seal, very similar to what we had just seen, uses a sterile gauze pad placed over the wound itself, and then the Asherman seal is a completely surrounding occlusive dressing which is stuck onto the skin over the wound and then allows the wound to breathe through the small latex piece of attachment to the dressing itself. The Asherman seal is a difficult dressing to use in actual practice because it sweats off of most patients who have wounds of this size, or the leakage from the wound, the bleeding, would actually cause the dressing to come off the patient. Asherman seals are also very expensive, and because you go through many of them to try to treat a patient with a wound like this, we tend no longer to use an Asherman seal. So the new thought process for sealing a wound of this nature is to use an expired AED electrode. And now we finally have a use for these electrodes that you've been throwing out for years. So we take the AED electrode, place the electrode over the wound. Get rid of the wire going to the patient. Notice my pink scissors that you can buy so that people don't steal them from the ambulance. No one wants a pair of pink scissors. And now we have completely occluded the wound itself. If in fact the patient starts to have compromise from the lung collapsing underneath the sucking chest wound itself, what we would do is lift the dressing at one of the corners and ask the patient to cough or wait until he took a deep breath, and that would re-expand the lung underneath. For the present time though, we'll leave the dressing on the wound, sealing all four sides of it, which is the current thinking in advanced trauma life support, pre-hospital trauma life support, and all of the trauma literature. Take some sort of a writing implement and note on the AED pad that you're covering a wound with it. Thanks for watching Training Minutes. I'm Mike McAvoy, EMS editor for Fire Engineering.
All right. So, thank you. In conclusion, I present this video to try to save lives. You know, while it's a minimal threat, it is still a threat. And, you know, I'd rather you be prepared for the day that never comes than unprepared for the day that just happened. Now, with this being said, be safe, be good. You know, look out for each other, because we are all we got sometimes. This is not designed to then make you a warrior. This is designed to make you survive. Like I said, run, hide, fight is a great thing, but a lot of those them surviving a mass shooting things are from people in an office's perspective, not people doing construction, factory work, you know, correction officers, jailers. There's a lot of people that get left out when they make these videos. This video is not to undermine Run, Hide, Fight. It had a lot of great information in it. But Run, Hide, Fight left out some key factors, and this is pretty much just a video to help out with the key factors left out of Run, Hide, Fight. So with that being said, have a nice day. I hope this video was informative, and please take these words, always keep them in the back of your mind.